pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This session of the Lincoln County Commission on February the 16th, 2012 at 10 a.m. is now called to order. Members present is Charles McCann, President, Charles Vance, Commissioner, and Thomas Ramey, Jr., Commissioner. First thing on the agenda, I need a motion to approve the minutes of the regular session of the Lincoln County Commission meeting that was held on February the 2nd, 2012 at 6 p.m.
So moved.
Motion second. That'll be an all yes vote. Motion carries.
Next thing, we have Sue Burton from the West Hammond Elementary on the agenda, and I know she has spoken with Commissioner Vance. Her husband has had a heart attack, and she won't be able to be here today, but she did need a donation for their book fair, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was for, and I'm fairly sure she told me that was $1,200 is what she was asking.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the $1,200?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion second. All yes vote. Motion carries.
Next thing on the agenda is Jim Boggs, and he's got several projects to talk to us today about.
Welcome, Jim.
Thank you. No, Carol, just come up front because I have a lot of stuff to be signed today. Good morning. I guess we'll start with the first one is the Big Hearts Water Project. And of course, you all just recently are the recipients of a Small Cities Block Grant from the FY 2011 Small Cities Block Grant Program for the Big Hearts Water Project. Back in December, I think it was, y'all received a copy of the state and local contract from the West Virginia Development Office and submitted that back to them with a resolution accepting the grant. So anyway, that has been executed. So the next step we have to do on that is what we call the Small Cities Block Grant upfront documentation. And I'll go through these as quick as I can, but these are the things, and some of this will be submitted as part of your environmental process. Some of it's just going to go in the project file, but it basically sets the standard for what we abide by as far as the small city standards throughout the life of the project. And the first item I have is the written code of conduct. And the code of conduct, and I'll just go over that very briefly, but it says County Commission will certify that it will maintain the following code of conduct governing the performance and the administration of contracts supported by the Small Cities Block Grant for the Big Hearts Water Project. And it says that no employee, officer, or agent of the subgrantee shall participate in the selection, award, or administration of a contract in which Small Cities Block Grant funds are used, where to their knowledge, immediate family, partners, organization has any financial interest or with whom the County Commission is negotiating or setting any arrangement concerning prospective employment. Subgrantee officers shall neither solicit nor accept gratuities, favors, or anything of monetary value from contractors, and penalties, sanctions, and other disciplinary actions will be applied for violations of the above standards by the subgrantee officers, employees, or agents, and to the extent permissible by state or local laws.
Let's do these each. It's all right.
That'd be fine.
Entertain a motion to adopt the code of conduct as read.
Second.
All yes. Motion carries. Go right ahead.
Okay, the next one I have is a resolution adopting the federal procurement standards. And it says, whereas the Lincoln County Commission has received the Small Cities Block Grant from the FY 2011 program, and whereas the County Commission has accepted the terms and conditions required by the grant, one of the conditions is complying with requirements of 24 CFR Part 85 concerning federal procurement standards. In addition to 24 CFR 85, the County Commission has determined to set a $5,000 limit on small purchases. Be it resolved that the Lincoln County Commission, on this the 16th day of February 2012, will abide by the federal procurement standards of 24 CFR Part 85 in conducting all business related to the Small Cities Block Grant Program.
Have a motion to adopt the resolution of the procurement standards.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. All yes. Motion carries.
This one I'm not going to read everything on. This is the written 3-day rule compliance policy and determination of cost allowability, allocability, and reasonableness. this is the written procedure as far as from the time that we receive invoices or the engineer receives invoices from the contractor, what the process is, and of course they review those invoices. Generally, because you'll be in an intergovernmental agreement with the Logan County PSD on this project, if it's an engineering invoice or contracting invoice or something like that, they will actually approve those, provide those to me. I will then prepare a drawdown request and bring that to you all to approve at your meeting. Then we'll submit that to West Virginia Development Office, and they can take up to 30 to 60 days to process that. Once they process that and approve it, they'll issue a state warrant check that will come straight to the county commission. And then for the written, once that check's received, it's taken to the sheriff's office. Sheriff's office will actually deposit that into your small cities account. From there, the county clerk's office will actually write out the check, and you'll submit those. You'll issue those checks to the vendors, and of course, the supporting documentation that will be required as far as that's concerned. Of course, we always keep a copy of the actual check itself, a copy of the deposit ticket, and a copy of the vendor's checks. And with the 3-day rule, of course, once that's deposited in the construction account, that money has to be expended within 3 days of deposit. So checks, and that's one thing they'll check when they come in and look at our bank statements and everything, are that those checks are issued within 3 days after the actual deposit in there. But that's actually, like I say, that is the written 3-day rule compliance policy and determination of cost, allowability, allocability, and reasonableness.
Have a motion to adopt?
Second.
The motion second. Being all yes vote, motion carries.
The next item I have is a certification regarding anti-displacement and relocation assistance, and of course, Small Cities Block Grant Program is a program of Housing and Urban Development, Department of Housing and Urban Development, and under that, that is one of the focuses, primary focus for them. But for this project, of course, this project is going to consist of the construction of new water lines, and it's not going to involve any actual displacement of anybody in that project area. But we do go ahead and do that, and there is a note on here that as as anticipated for this project, we do not anticipate any displacement of any individuals living in that project area.
Motion to adopt the displacement policy.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Being all yes vote, motion carries.
And in that same vein, this is a similar document, but it's slightly different. But this is the Residential Anti-Displacement and Relocation Assistance Plan under Section 104 of the Housing Community Development Act of 1974. And again, it just spells out what steps the County Commission would take if anybody should be displaced as a result of the construction of the project. But again, it's noted that no relocation or displacement is anticipated as part of this project.
Okay, to adopt the residential anti-displacement as described in the image.
Second.
Motion second. Being all yes, motion carries.
All right, and the next item I have, and again, I won't go through this in detail, but this is the Affirmative Action Program for Minority Business Enterprises for Lincoln County. And just basically it gives some information about the National Program for Minority Business Enterprise, lists the county's program for compliance, which includes policy statement, county statement of goals, project implementation schedule, and project summary, bidding procedures, how we'll go about notification of interested organizations, advertisements, contract requirements, and contractor and subcontractor responsibilities. On the signature page on this one, though, there is a separate document called the County Statement of Goals for Executive Order 11625 for National Program of Minority Business Enterprise. And what that says is basically that the County Commission has set a goal of 5% of its total project budget of the Small Cities Grant, $75,000 for minority business enterprise participation in the construction of the Big Hearts Water Project. And again, that is just a goal and that is not a requirement, but to the greatest extent feasible, that is the goal we'll try to achieve, the $75,000.
Okay, you've heard this read, the minorities goal. Your motion to adopt?
So moved.
Motion second. All yes, motion carries.
Next one I have is a resolution formalizing a fair housing program for Lincoln County Commission. And it says, by participating in the federal community development program, the Lincoln County Commission is pledged to ensure and support fair housing practices accordingly. And it is thereby resolved that the Lincoln County Commission is taking formal action to prevent discrimination in the sale, rental, or financing of housing. And further it says the county administrator shall provide all appropriate advice and counsel on home loans and financing for minorities and lower income families and individuals. And further, administrators shall provide further advice to lower income minority families and individuals with regards to federal programs that may be available for the rental or financing of housing. And staff shall be available for counseling from 9 a.m. through 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday at the Lincoln County Courthouse. And that person shall also advise the public that any complaints of discrimination in the sale, rental, or financing of housing should be reported to her, and she will forward that information to the proper governmental authorities. And this resolution approved and adopted the 16th day of February.
Okay, do we have a motion to adopt this resolution?
Second.
Good motion, second. Being all yes vote, motion carries.
And similar to that document, of course, we annually do a fair housing proclamation with the county, and we'll anticipate presenting that to you all in March. And that is something that we actually goes in your project file, but it's also something that we use when we're submitting your applications to show, you know, your activities as far as furthering fair housing practices in the county. Next document I have is called the Applicant Recipient Disclosure Update Report. You may recognize this. This was actually submitted as part of the Small Cities Block Grant. It's required to be submitted whenever we do a Small Cities Block Grant. This is just an updated version. What that shows is Small Cities funding in the amount of $1.5 million. Also shows what the other funding in the project is going to be. Of course, that's going to be through USDA grant and loan combination through Logan County TSD. Also, there's funding in there from the West Virginia Infrastructure Job Development Council, and we also have commitment of local funds from the Logan County Commission of $100,000 and the Lincoln County Commission of $100,000. So those are reflected on the back as funding. And also, if there's any interested parties, and of course, Region 2 Planning Development is listed on here, and the project engineer on this one is E.L. Robinson, so they're listed here as an interested party. Also, the Logan County PSD is listed, but they have no direct financial interest in the project other than they'll own the system once it's completed. So with that, I'll submit that for your approval.
A motion to adopt this application.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Being all yes vote, motion carries.
And I actually just told a fib about the Fair Housing Proclamation because I got my papers out of order, but I did go ahead and do a proclamation and went ahead and did that in anticipation that, so we didn't have to do that next month. But it's just a proclamation which declares April of 2012 as Fair Housing Month in Lincoln County.
We have a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
The motion second. Being all yes, motion carries.
And another document I have here, and I'm almost to the end of those, is the Labor Standards Complaint Procedure for the Lincoln County Commission for the Big Hearts Project. And it just says any person who has labor standard complaint regarding the Lincoln County Commission Big Hearts Water Project to which Davis-Bacon and other acts, related acts apply, may file a complaint according to the following procedure. And that just lists the procedures. Of course, as we as the administrator also act as your labor compliance officer. But that basically says, you know, that they have, once we receive the complaint, you know, we'll have 14 days to respond to the request in writing, and basically that'll be on file in our labor file at the office.
A motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second. Being all yes vote, motion carries.
All right, and I have one last one as far as your upfront documentation, and this is the fun one. This is the agreement for administration services for the Big Hearts Water Project between the County Commission and Region 2 Planning and Development Council. And of course, small cities grants are usually structured for 36-month period, 3-year period, and we propose an amount not to exceed $60,000 for the total administration of the project from beginning to end. And this is the standard agreement that we generally use. Note that on the back, we generally, our board chairman usually signs that, but as he'll be signing as the president of the county commission, we actually have the vice chairman on there of Region 2 Planning Development who will actually provide the second signature on that. But with that, I'll submit that for your approval.
Motion to approve the
So
agreement.
moved.
Second.
Of course, you're going to send me a copy of all that.
Yes.
sounds like it, just listening to all this, that you're starting to earn the money.
Yeah, and we have to do this stuff before we can actually start on the actual environmental, before we can get a release of funds on the project. So we try to get this stuff taken care of as soon as possible. And I did have one other document. I don't guess they brought it down yet.
No, it's in with the
Okay.
attorney.
But I would ask the county commission to go ahead and authorize Commissioner McCann. It's the intergovernmental agreement between Logan County Public Service District and the county commission. And basically, that has to be approved by the county commission, the Logan County PSD. County attorney has to sign that. We have to send that on to the Attorney General's office, and they'll also have to approve it. But it's the same form that you all had done previously on the Upper Little Harts Creek project and the Eatonville project and the past small cities projects. Basically, it says that you all aren't held accountable for any damages that result as part of the project. The PSD is responsible for the procurement of professional services on the project, and basically at the end of the project, the Logan County PSD will own that system, own and operate that system. But anyway, if you all could go ahead and approve that when the attorney office brings that down, you can go ahead and sign that. There's 5 copies of that.
Now, you've heard the presentation, got a motion, second, all yes vote, motion carries and signed upon arrival from the prosecutor.
And that's all for the upfront documentation, and I'll move on to a couple of project-related items. And the first one, I guess, is the Upper Little Harts Creek Water Project, and I have a drawdown request today. The drawdown request is the amount of $4,202.33 for the Upper Little Harts Creek Project, and that includes 7 invoices from Region 2 Planning and Development Council for grant administration services from July through January of this year, totaling the same amount. Basically, all the construction on that project is complete to date. Customers are receiving service. The only thing that's remaining on that project is when they did the change order work and did that little extension, there's still a couple little cleanup items, some punch list items that need to be taken care of. And now they did have some good weather in January, but basically just waiting for the weather to clear so they can get in there. But we anticipate that all that construction activity will probably be done conservatively, at least about before May of this year. And at that time, if the engineer is ready to submit the certificate of final completion, we can go ahead and prepare the final performance report and submit that to the development office and close that project out. But with that, I'll submit this drawdown request for your all's approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Then all yes vote, motion carries.
Commissioner McCann, you get everything to sign in there. Commissioner McCann, while you're signing those, if you'd like me to go ahead and start on the next project. This is for the 10 Mile Creek Water Project, and of course, construction started on that one finally. I do have a change order today. This is change order budget amendment number 2. Budget amendment number 2 is now that we're in construction, we'd had our money allocated in the construction, land acquisition, and administration of the project. We're in construction now, and the land acquisition was actually paid for out of the local funds that the district received from Rock Springs Development. So we have $10,000 there, and this budget amendment is simply requesting that we take that $10,000 out of the land acquisition line item, and we're just putting that over into the construction line item. So we're not increasing or decreasing the amount of ARC funds in the project, we're just reallocating them from line item to line item.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Then all yes vote, motion carries. So exciting to sit here and listen to all these water projects.
Yeah.
A little bit of work, but exciting. You'll check them.
And I'll check those before I leave. And here's the budget amendment that you all just approved. And while you're signing that, I do have a drawdown request, and this is drawdown request number 4 for the 10 Mile Creek Waterline Extension Project in an amount of $442,218.62. And included as part of this invoice as part of this drawdown request are 6 invoices from Region 2 Planning Development Council, and that's for grant administration services from July through December of 2011, totaling $3,724.62. And also have one invoice from Famco Incorporated, which is their pay request number 1 in the amount of $438,494, and a payment resolution authorizing the request and disbursement of said funds. And just to give you an update on that project, of course, the construction contracts were actually awarded on the project on December 23rd, and the notice of proceed was issued to both contractors on that same day. Of course, Famco's the only one out there working right now, and they've been out since the 1st of January. And as of this drawdown request, they were approximately 80% complete. And of course, that was only 3 weeks into the project. And you know, we've had 3 weeks production since they submitted that pay request. So we're probably up closer to between 10 and 16% now. But as of this drawdown request, they were showing 8% complete as the actual physical construction. And of course, Mid-Atlantic Storage System, they're not going to be out working probably until April. But of course, there's that particular type of tank. It's not a welded tank, so I mean those go up fairly quickly. But they're under a 9-month construction period on that. So if they start in April, they should be well on schedule.
So by this time next year, we should be looking.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And that's if we get into some change order work or something like that, if there's money left over, sometimes that'll delay the project. But all the original construction is anticipated to be completed by September of this year.
I heard they're putting gas lines under those lines up through there. Have you heard anything about
They talked with the gas company, and it has to do with some of the piping. Because you can't have fittings within, I think, the gas company said within 50 feet of the center of their gas pipe. So what they're doing is they're doing like it's a single pipe, a single pipe. Yeah, seamless pipe, and they're going to use that instead. So we did a change order actually Monday at the district.
That's not going to affect the project.
No, it's just a different type of pipe. They're taking out 100, just the change order we just did, they're taking out 100 linear feet of PVC pipe, which of course would have the joints. And then they're just going to fabricate it as one single piece and put it in like that.
Okay, so I just didn't want to drag it out and maybe cost us more.
No, and we will have a couple other ones like that. They did notify us of that one, and they said there was at least one more in the project where they would do that. But it's just going to be a little change order. It is a little more expensive to do it that way, but I mean that's what's required. So, but there is contingency money in the project to cover those expenses. Plus, there's an offset for, it does cost a little more to do that, but you take 100 linear feet of pipe out of the project, which is, I think it was $2,700. So the total looks like $2,200 extra to do it that way. So, but there's contingency money in there for that. And with that, I'll submit this drawdown request number 4 for your all approval.
Motion to approve drawdown.
So,
Second.
All yes vote. Motion carries.
And Judy, can I just make mention of that public hearing for next week? Okay. We've scheduled a public hearing next week, just in case the county commission should want us to pursue another small cities block grant out of the FY 2012 allocation. We'd actually scheduled that meeting for this evening, and it was published in the paper at 5:45 a.m. And I consulted with the development office, and they said that was probably unrealistic and putting undue hardship on the citizens. So anyway, we rescheduled that meeting for next Wednesday at 10 a.m. And the ad, actually, if you see the ad yesterday, it says it's being held in lieu of the meeting that was canceled, that was originally scheduled for today.
In a public hearing, really, it's not an official meeting of the commission.
No, that's not an official meeting.
Where will that be held at?
Here over in the county commission's office.
Can I ask Mr. Boggs a question? The Upper Little Hearts Water Project, is that including all the people on Francis Creek, Man's Knob, and Trawl Fork that do not have water lines?
It does not include Francis Creek, but I have an engineering report, and I just submitted that to the Infrastructure Council. It will be a separate project. But we actually submitted that to the infrastructure because we had to have that into them by February 10th. So that's been submitted, and I've already got a letter back from them that they received the application, and we'll be proceeding with that as a separate application.
And what about Man's Knob and Trawl Fork?
I would have to look and see what the scope of that project called for.
Was that the $10,000 from Rock Springs that you were talking about that they had donated that was going to be allocated back to the Little Hearts project or the 10-mile water project?
No, that's on 10 Mile. Rock Springs actually allocated $70,000 to the construction of that project. Yeah. But I know I can check on that. I do have the mapping for what the Francis Creek entails, but I'll have to just take that out and take a look at it. Just off the top of my head, I can't remember. I do remember Francis Creek, though.
Well, there's Francis Creek, Trawl Fork, and Man's Knob do not have the water lines.
Okay, well, I can take a look at that.
Those are self-help. Logan PSD's going to do those.
Oh, they're going to do those smaller? Okay.
They've got the money already.
Okay, okay. All right. And that's all we had for y'all today. Like I say, we'll be back next week, next Wednesday, and we'll see y'all then.
All right.
And Judy, I'll get you copies of this. It may take me a little while. I need to do it before we move.
I may see you in the morning. I think we've got a closing in the morning on the building.
Oh, okay.
11, I think.
They don't involve me in that stuff. I don't know what's going on with that. They just told me to bunch my stuff up. Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, I hope I do see you in the morning then.
All right.
All right, thank y'all very much.
Next thing on the agenda is Rick McDowell. He's got another movie for us.
We do. Ryan's going to give you an update on what we're doing with Phase 4, and then
I can just update you guys from here if that's okay. I mean,
That's fine.
just working towards Phase 4. We're currently submitting information to the DEP, all the lovely forms that go along with it. One of them was a Clean Water State Revolving Fund that we applied for, as well as we're working on the specifications, includes like what types of systems we're putting in, the amounts, things like that. We're almost finished with that. The last pieces that we need are in-ground system designs. We're looking at putting 5 in-ground still, and we're trying to get some help with the designs on what we should be using and what's appropriate based on the land and the contours. And then the bid schedule. Once we get the final designs for the in-ground systems, we'll be able to kind of start working towards the tentative bid schedule and when we can start looking at some bidding processes starting. We've also created a tentative budget for Phase 4, and we include that in the form of proposal. So we're moving right along. Hopefully have that before too long.
Thanks for thank you.
so, after the last commission meeting, the commission asked us to move forward on this issue of tanks. After the meeting, we sent out some letters to some folks. We went to W.J. Clark's prefabrication place, met with them. Then we went out into the watershed to actually look at some tanks with some folks from Clark's. Then we went back to Clark's on Tuesday and looked at the molds and discussed that. And Bill's here today from W.J. Clark. What I thought I would do would just give you an update about what we've learned in the process about these tanks. Bill's going to explain a few things, and we'll see if there are any questions. Excuse me, let's go to the light on. Okay. This is a picture of a dual compartment concrete septic tank, the kind of septic tanks that we put in when we were doing Phase 1. And some of the important things to notice here, this is a riser. This is going to stick up above the ground. During Phase 1, the state had not changed the rules to say that you had to have 2 risers sticking up out of the ground. So these other openings, there's 1, 2, 3 other openings that are made into the top of the tank. When this tank went in, these other openings were covered. That's an important thing, I think, if we go through this to understand. So when we were talking the last time, I showed you a batch of pictures of the interior of tanks, and as we looked at those, we saw the section that you can see at the top there and thought, uh-oh, these tanks are coming apart. And so a lot of the time we've spent with Clark, W.J. Clark, has been trying to figure out exactly what we were looking at, and what it meant. So what we found is that in these tanks, there's an interior wall that separates the two sections of the tanks. And when Clarks make these tanks, they have an opening there in between where the interior, this interior wall is. Here's the interior wall, two sides of the septic tank. This lid fits on top of there. The same thing here. Here it's upside down. It's going to fit down on there. So there's an opening that's fabricated into the tank itself. This is a new tank that hasn't been used yet, and you can see that it's got an opening in it. After it's been fabricated, the guys who are working on it take a hammer and knock out like a thin film of concrete that's there, and the film is there because there's this mold. The thing, I think Bill's even got one of those, fits down inside of where the concrete is and creates this opening. So a lot of what we thought were these holes inside of the tanks were actually things that were fabricated inside the tank. So if you go back and look at where we started, the three things with handles on them are all things that are made into the tank for different kind of uses for the tank that make openings inside the tank itself. What we were seeing was the one on the far right up at the top. And I think, Bill, you brought a couple things that you wanted to show the commission?
I did.
Okay.
If you can back up to the next, the picture you showed before, where it shows the casting itself. Yeah, you can do that. That when these tanks are manufactured, if you notice on each side of the bottom of the tapered part, actually this is a little bit, it's sort of like a Wesson oil. So if I touch it, I wouldn't be able to touch anybody or shake a pen if I did that, so I'm going to use gloves.
Do you want the lights back on?
No, I need you to come help me get these out of the gloves.
I don't have any gloves.
I'll hold you. I'll hold
I
you.
knew I was going to get dirty.
You will. Now turn the box upside down. This is actually what you're looking at. This is cast over top of the tank itself, and this is the casting that you're looking at on the right-hand side. The section that you're looking at between here and here is actually a petition, and that's the petition that Rick talked about, and that's the divider point between the tanks. There's approximately 3/4 of an inch of the petition on each side of this that has to be knocked out by hand. The purpose of it is you have to have air moving through the system, or you get a lot of gurgling back into the house when you use water or flush toilets or whatever, because there's no escape for air. So therefore, after these molds are pulled out and this petition is subset down into the tank, we have to take a hammer and knock each one of those sides out so air can pass over from side to side. If you back up to the very first picture where you see the little jagged hole, that's what you're looking at right there. It kind of looks pretty rough, and I have to admit, from the inside it does look bad. But if you don't knock those out, then you don't have an air transportation through the tank itself, which eliminates the gurgling in the system. So you have to take, and these are made on an area where they have to be knocked out rather quickly because it is a production thing. It happens very quickly. So they just take a hammer, they knock it out. So therefore you have a little jagged hole. There's nothing wrong, and bear in mind this is well above the water table. It's somewhere between 9 and 12 inches above the water. Next item. You had another question, I forgot what it was.
What? I didn't have another question.
No, I mean when you were talking about it. the baffling itself going from compartment to compartment. If you go back to the very first picture again, where it shows the top of the tank, can you do that for me?
I thought you were talking about the
Right
roots
there.
that were growing through.
Well, we have to use, underneath these lids, we use a duct tape. And a lot of the stuff that you're seeing hanging down is when the duct tape comes apart. These are the strings hanging down from the duct tape. Now, that's not to say that it can't get a root in there, because roots will grow in the most minute area
Oh, yeah.
to get it in. Now, since this tank and the early parts of it, the middle round large tank, that's about a 16-inch hole, that has been eliminated. And the square on the inlet end, which is toward us, that has been eliminated and replaced with a riser, because it's easier access for pumping or inspection if you have those risers come to the surface. Those risers are about 24 inches in diameter. Now, the little section over top, the little square lid that we're in question about, which is what this mold does right here, we have changed the production on it to more conform with the program that's gone here. So we have eliminated that other lid. And we have cast in an 1.5 or 2-inch pipe over top of this, under the top of the system itself, and on the top of this, the partition in between, so air can transfer through the small pipe that we're casting into it to eliminate that. So either root infiltration or rain infiltration, anything that can all be eliminated at this point. And as I told Rick, in this industry, we all live and learn, because these tanks are made for a multitude of different purposes. We use these for oil separators. We also use them for grease tanks. We also use them for dual compartment when you have to hold back and have extra treatment in the system. On the outlet end where the riser is now, there is an effluent filter that sits down in there, and it's actually a 32nd of an inch opening. And to give you a thought of that, that is about the size of your screen door screen. It's not a very big opening. So therefore, it holds back a lot of unbiodegradable or slow degrading products that holds in the anaerobic section for the septic tank itself. Before it goes over to the a secondary type treatment, which would be, in this particular instance, the purified biopeat filter systems, we want to hold back undigested systems so it can be broken down longer or retained for pumping if it can't be broken down. The primary problems we have with those is kitchen grease, and basically that's why we have cholesterol problems. Our body just doesn't produce enough enzymes to break down grease. So therefore, it's the same bacteria that works in the tank that comes from us. We just actually send the bacteria out there every time we flush. So basically, everything that's going on out there is coming from us inside our body. So therefore, since we can't handle grease, we have an extra partition in there to help hold the grease back. Even though the effluent filter will do that or help hold it back, that's why we have to have a separate partition within the unit itself. And then when it goes to final treatment, which is in the aerobic or in the peat system itself, it helps hold back unbiodegradable items such as, and also like the dishwashing liquids and these type of things. Now, we're not going to be Big Brother and tell them not to use certain types of detergents and these things. I don't tell my wife what to do, and I'm sure not going to tell other people what to do, but we give them perimeters and guidelines to go by. There are certain types of dishwashing liquids that work better than others. Unfortunately, it goes through a process we call emulsification. And what that means, it disappears for a while and then it reappears. If you look at the Dawn dishwashing liquid commercials, they work really, really well. My wife uses this. And it helps clean everything off from your silverware, pots and pans and plates. The thing of it is, once it cools off, it reappears again. So that's what a septic tank does. It's underground, stays about 56 degrees. So therefore, well, the average water temperature from a house is about 70 degrees. So when we hit the cool water, it reappears. So therefore, that's what the petition and the effluent filter does, is help pull all of that back. So therefore, when the water is transferred through the effluent filter, you're basically just getting some dirty water passing through there, but it has to be smaller than a screen door screen, basically, to pass through. Because you remember, we're working with microorganisms here. And when they live and produce, or they live in the aerobic system, or in a peat system, they're like fibercraft, and they live in these little small fiber holes. And all this stuff that passes through, since they're small, minute system, or bugs, we want to send small stuff out to them. If you send something really big, then you may have a problem with it. But basically, in the field of a peat system itself, they have well, for lack of better words, bigger chunks that come out through there. We have worms that actually are migrated, that are attracted to here, and they're doing big stuff all the way down to minute amoebas that live in the very bottom of the system. The primary purpose of the septic tank is to hold back or to retain unbiodegradable or undesirable items in the system for digestion. And then after it goes through the feed itself, it goes through an ultraviolet disinfection unit. And we have perimeters that we must meet. So therefore, whenever Rick goes out and does the testing on those, we want to meet those criteria before it hits our strictures. And so far, I think it's been really pretty decent. I think it should be good enough.
So I guess sort of to cut to the chase on, what we've discovered, I think that, I'm not sure if every single one of those holes that I showed you the last time was in this position, but I do think that a fair number of them. So now that, Bill's gotten involved to help us figure this thing out, we're not to the point where we're saying that we think these tanks are not causing problems, but I think those upper holes are not, they're not a sign of the whole tank collapsing and crumbling down after
The tank, if I may say, the tank itself is structurally very strong. The concrete is tested to make sure that it meets the criteria that the state sets aside. By eliminating some of the lids on the top, we have eliminated some of the intrusions that come in. So the earlier tanks, if the lids fit on properly, then they should fit very fine. They should not leak. They shouldn't have it. Structurally, the system is very sound. By eliminating the left-out lids on the others of the tanks that we're doing now, and like I told Rick, we live and learn. We figured out the best application for what the systems are being designed and installed for in Lincoln County. We want to make sure that the tanks are desirable for that. Bear in mind, we supplied some 700 tanks to the government, and they vacuum tested all of our tanks before they went into the ground, and they had to have a 3-pound vacuum on each one before they went in the ground. So we know structurally they meet very well. The problems I think that we're having down there that Rick and I had talked about, there's two problem areas it could be. The earlier tanks that went in that had the square lids on them, if you look at the top of this mold, you find out that it is not perfectly in line. Over a period of years, they get little nicks and dings in it. And when you pour a lid, it forms to the nicks and dings, and you can't get those back out. So therefore, you have to make sure the lid goes back in exactly the way that it was cast. Because if you give it a quarter or a half turn, it may not line up, and you could get a leaking on that, on the very first tanks that we get put in. The very worst of those is the round lids, which we have eliminated now, but these are items where it's, I don't know, we can't measure intrusion at this point because we don't really know. I don't think it's a lot, and for the most cases, it's probably somewhere around a teacup of water a day. It could be more than that if the lids are not put back in the way they're supposed to be. There's no way to go back to see. There was a seal question about the tank, the lines going into the tanks themselves. And if it doesn't go in exactly the way it's supposed to, these are rubberized sealed grommets that the pipe passes through on the inlets and the outlet sides to ensure that we don't get leakage on it. And I showed Rick one that I had gotten from a contractor that had been so abused that he had knocked it clear out of the tank. I sit on the West Virginia Sewage Advisory Board and the West Virginia Technical Review Committee. And we see these things all the time when they come up, and mostly it's abuse on an installer rather than what the product may be, because they only have certain guidelines that they can go by. And it is actually a problem sometimes because of the way the conditions in some of these tanks are put in. They're not exactly lining up, and it makes it extremely hard to make it waterproof from a manufacturer point of view, where a lot of the problems could be in the installing themselves. And then we have settling also.
Do you have a retro seal that you can go back on those?
The only retro seal I know at this point is you probably have to go by, if it's going to be a seal for an inlet or an outlet line, you might have to you may have to go back and use some type of a mortar or a non-shrinking grout to go around the inlets and the outlets if you propose that. I had talked to a couple of experts after I had talked with Rick some time ago, and the lids themselves, there is a product out made by Conceal, and I showed Rick what it was. I'm not a big fan of this, but they say the manufacturer, they supply the sealing for these tanks. And understand the seal that goes in these tanks is basically the same thing that goes in a burial vault. So it's almost exactly the same structure of the butyl that goes in to put these together. But they have, that stuff is so sticky that once you touch it, especially in the summer when it's hot, you really can't get it off your hands. It's really pretty hard to deal with. But they have come up with a product that is not a really sticky deal that you can retro back on the lids and do that. Yeah. But as far as the inlets and the outlets, that's always been a problem. But a non-shrinking grout seems to be, over a period of time, the best of the best to go back to fix those with.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Appreciate you coming. So, from the project standpoint, as Bill said, the tanks that are being made nowadays, of course, we're not putting any concrete tanks in the project, we're just putting plastic. Tanks that are being made nowadays have addressed some of these problems that we've got here. Our concern is that we've still got in the project these early tanks. And you can see, remember, we talked about the fact that you've got these round openings that are concrete that are put in there to lift out. Here's one of this is in a pump tank. You can see that indeed there are roots that are coming in here. We figure where there are roots, there's also going to be liquid coming down. In the Danny Clark tank, the septic tank's on the right-hand side, the pump tank's on the left-hand side. One of the things that was significant for us in the pump tank, you can see the discoloration about a third of the way down. That shows you where the highest point of the water in the pump tank. That's an extremely high range that it's going up and down. Our worry is that that's caused by infiltration of groundwater. If you look at the septic tank picture, you can see that there are roots. There's also some dripping that's going on there. And of course, if you have a lot of groundwater coming in, it's going to flush stuff through faster, and it's going to mean that the peat system is going to have more trouble taking care of what's coming through because the system's only designed to handle X amount of liquid. So we're concerned about that. We also think that there's infiltration, not just from the top, that there's infiltration from the side. This is Eric Woodrum's tank. This is the tank where we drilled down into the dirt on the outside of the tank, put dye in the dirt during a rainstorm, and then went back the next day and opened up the tank lid, and the dye that was on the outside of the tank was now on the inside of the tank. So our feeling is that that's happening because there's something the matter with the integrity of the tank, and somehow liquid is getting inside. We haven't figured out how to solve that one. We still have some questions about the baffles that are supposed to be between the two interior sides of the tank. DHHR rules give you a design criteria for that. It's supposed to be an L-shaped pipe like this. Our feeling is there are some of these tanks that don't have baffles in them, although we feel like we've got to go back and check them all over again to make sure we're designing a baffle checker stick to do that with. And another unresolved thing that we've got that's been hanging over us since August is we've got, here are two pictures. The one at the top is Mary Atkins, and the one at the bottom is Chris Campbell. Chris Campbell's peak is the way it's supposed to look. Mary Atkins' peak, her system's completely destroyed. We feel it's been destroyed in part because of grease used by the homeowner, but also because of infiltration and water. When we have systems where we've had a lot of grease with plastic tanks, the peat's still okay, but when we have a lot of grease and we have this infiltration in the concrete tanks, this is what we're finding is happening, and we feel like we've got to solve this concrete tank problem before we have more systems like Mary's. So we've got some unresolved things that we're trying to figure out. I think we have figured out for sure that what we were looking at when we thought it was holes in all the tops are probably not holes in all the tops. but I don't think we've got it solved at this point. So, you know, there are issues that we're still working on. These are sort of the ones I highlighted. We're trying to figure out how best to do experiments to solve them. I'm not sure what they were going to be, what they will be, but hopefully we can come back to the commission and give you some answers.
Mr. Clark?
If you don't care, I'd like to do just a little follow-up on it, because after I had been giving some thought on these, because Rick asked me if you not to look at these sites, and we did. In the Mary Atkins site, there is problems with the homeowner putting a lot of grease, which the filter didn't catch and it went right on into the system. But also I found out that the outlet line was stopped up and water could not get out of the peat itself. And that, I think, had something to do with the degrading of the peat and it not performing near the way it should. We can't point fingers at why that happened, because the outlet line itself just didn't drain. And then I think the UV was bad too, wasn't it? Yes. So we wasn't getting the disinfection that we were supposed to. It is an ongoing issue, but the homeowners themselves are, we can't figure out what they're doing. Plus the fact, when you have several hundred of these systems out there outside of the Lincoln County project that all work very well, then we got to go back and figure out which side it is without pointing fingers and knowing exactly where we stand.
I just appreciate the effort on Rick and Ryan working on this, and appreciate you working with them and coming out and explaining the free education. But we do have some issues to resolve, and we'll just continue to let Rick work on those with you or whomever the other providers are, other people, and hopefully we can resolve it.
Okay.
Anything else, Rick, you or Ryan? Thank you, Doc.
Next thing on the agenda is the Hearts Community Center. I just have one update that the computers that the assessor and the sheriff requested for the tax collection office there at the community center has been ordered. And at our meetings this weekend, I did talk to the guy, and he thought he would have them ready by this weekend, but he had to install a few other things.
Is there still an issue there trying to get the person that's living in the trailer to get him to move out, or have you got that resolved?
No, we do not have it resolved. I had sent him a letter that was delivered before December 31st, telling him that he had to be out of the trailer by December 31st. As of yesterday, he was still living there. I asked the gentleman to tell him that if he wasn't out in 5 days, that I'd have an eviction notice delivered by the deputies. The Corporal Community Center.
Okay. We had our monthly meeting on February the 3rd. And also, we still need the parking lot repaired and the playground equipment put in. The roof is leaking over the new hot water heater.
Oh, is it exhaust maybe?
Well, Scott Sanders said that it's leaking around where the vent pipe is, and I thought he fixed it here. But evidently not, because I checked yesterday, it's still leaking. And do you know anything about the signs that we requested? Are they ready? The information signs for the building inside and out?
I don't think they are, but we'll
Okay.
check on it.
And we received some quotes for a lighted sign to go in front of the center. We had 2 quotes. And we just want to know if the commission would look at
It's
bids
close
of purchase.
in your report.
Right, thank you. And we got 1 quote for the floors, but we want to they want to close the center for 4 to 5 days, and we're asking for more quotes so we can get it done quicker. And the Valentine's Social was a success. 25 people attended, and they said they enjoyed it and had a good time. And we expect the Pepsi machine to be delivered here soon, which we took care of that. We started planning an Easter egg hunt. The date is March 31st, and everyone's looking forward to the Hatfield-McCoy public meeting on February 22nd at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Here.
Well, outreach is doing good, and we did receive our trucks, and we have been distributing it, and we thank you very much.
Thank you.
After the trucks.
Next thing on the agenda is the healthy initiative for employees. There's his left. There he is. He's got his shirt on. He's one of our participants. All the employees that are participating, which I didn't wear mine today, but do have the shirts. We do get weighed in today. Have a better report at our next meeting, and we are serving lunch to all the participants.
A healthy.
A very healthy lunch.
I've seen lots of what they call rabbit food.
I don't think we've got baked tilapia and grilled chicken, turkey chili. And I do thank Channel 3 for airing that on there. That was a very positive note. I do thank you. Okay, on to new business. I need a motion to approve the bills as submitted for payment.
So moved.
Motion second. Being all yes vote, motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the appointments, wills, and settlements as submitted by Donald C. Whitten Clerk.
Second.
Motion second. Being all yes, motion carries.
I need a motion to extend the contract by and between the Lincoln County Commission and Ron Gregory until May the 3rd, 2012, for the purpose of working to establish a state park at the Upper Mud River Dam.
So moved, and I just would like to say that after hearing from Delegate Stowers and some of the other delegations for Lincoln County, I think this is a possibility that one day we will see that Mud River Lake area is a state park. I think that would be great for the county.
Motion and second. Being all yes vote, motion carries.
I need a motion to accept the resignation of Donald C. Whitten as Lincoln County Clerk effective February 29, 2012.
Second.
Motion and second. Being all yes, motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the appointment of State Vacation Lincoln County Commission by Donald C. Whitten Clerk.
So moved.
Motion and second. Being all yes, motion carries.
I need a motion to appoint C. Joseph Stevens as Fiduciary Commissioner for the estate of Bennett Watson.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. Being all yes, motion carries.
I need a motion to appoint Linda Wigman as Fiduciary Commissioner for the estate of Herbert Spalding Jr.
So moved.
Motion and second. Being all yes, motion carries.
I need a motion to approve the Community Participation Grant Program application in the amount of $10,000 for the Lincoln County Fairs and Festivals for lighting, fencing, and other improvements, and give Charles S. McCann President authorization to sign the stated documents.
Second.
Motion and second. Being all yes, motion carries. And they did, I noticed in that, that the people who have it organized, Mr. Browning in particular, agreed to pay the 10% that the state likes to have to the max. That's good.
I need a motion to approve an inter-office budget revision in the office of the circuit clerk, transferring $400 from training and education to travel as requested by Charles Brooklyn Clerk.
So moved.
Motion and second. All yes, motion carries.
I need a motion to approve camping at the ball field at the Upper Mud River Dam Recreation Area for the Bluegrass Gospel Festival to be held on June the 2nd and 3rd, 2012, with no hookups and with pre-registration with the county commission.
Second.
Motion and second. And what we have had discussion with Mr. Gaycart, who helps put the Bluegrass Gospel on. And we're putting this here with blessing the commission voting on it. And still, DNR, we've got to get with them and see if they'll work it out. But this depends on them working with us. In all yes vote, motion carries.
Next thing on the agenda is Dave Miller.
Dave?
Yes, I'd like to speak on the voter fraud. Mr. Ramey said in one of the meetings that Lincoln County will never move forward until this is all put behind us, and I think we all agree on that. And that being said, I'd like to ask Mr. Ramey, Mr. McCann, Judy Johnson, Tracy Dempsey, and the courthouse gang to resign immediately so Lincoln County can move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that's the thing, your answer to prove it guilty.
That's right, you're right.
Next thing on the agenda
Not on
is,
the agenda.
Okay.
next thing on the agenda is public comments. Anyone in the audience that's not on the agenda would like to speak at this time? April Roach.
Thank you.
I'm not on the agenda because what I had to bring came quickly and I didn't get a chance to call in. It's on the ATV safety that I spoke about the last time I was here, but before I go on to that, I wanted to bring up something that I'd seen in a class recently. It was actually a grant writing class, and you walk into that thinking, oh, it's going to be routine, but actually it was one of the probably top 10 best classes I've ever attended. Now, mind you, I've been to military training with the Navy, the Army, the Marine Corps, state of Texas, the state of West Virginia. I've had a lot of different training opportunities through my different employments, but I would say out of the ones I've had, this one was of the top 10. And the one thing I walked away from that with, and I wanted to share that with the group, they showed us a video by a photographer for the National Geographic. His name's DeWitt Jones. And there was a quote in that video that I wanted to share with the group. And the quote was that celebrating what's right with the world gives us the strength to fix what isn't. And so with that comment, I think what that means is, you know, we really need to focus on the positives because that's really what's going to push us forward and help us all work together to fix things. And as a point to that, what I have to bring today is absolutely good news. And so I'm happy to be able to share that so that we can continue to focus on those things that are right in the community in our county. Two of the good things that we have going on with this ATV project is one, the Ivy Branch Trail is going to be going in. We shared that at the meeting Ferris and I did with the Hatfield-McCoy Trail, and the anticipated dates for that are roughly September. And of course we all know that having new business come into the county is obviously going to make things better for all of us from one end of the county to the other. The other issue that comes up that's also a positive with this program is the ATV safety awareness classes that I've been teaching at the schools for the last 3 years. There is a requirement in the state code, and I brought copies of the state code because there's a lot of people that have not seen the state code in relation to the ATV safety laws. And the state code on that is actually chapter 17F. And in that section or that chapter, there's information stating that the DMV commissioner provides an ATV safety awareness course that's required for individuals under the age of 18 to have had. Up to now, or up to recently, you had to take your child to the DMV in order to receive that certification. They had to sit through a class. WVU Extension Service, through some of our regional agents here in the southern part of the state, went to the DMV commissioner and requested that our national curriculum be reviewed and compared to that DMV requirement to see if we could not somehow bring it to the county instead of having people have to go to the DMV to take these classes and then get the certification. And as of last week, I found out that we have been approved for that because our national curriculum not only meets the requirements of the DMV commissioner, but far exceeds what the DMV commissioner expects. So because of that, the Hamlin Elementary class that I just finished with last week will be the first class that the commissioner is going to let me issue the stickers that will go on the backs of their helmets, and they'll be given direction on that. And we will absolutely adhere very strictly to the requirements that the commissioner of the DMV expects us to adhere to. But any child that I take through a class with 2 hours of instruction plus another hour of paperwork, I will be able to issue these now to them so they will not have to go to the DMV commissioner or to the DMV local offices to take this class. And what that does is it actually alleviates a lot of time, and then some children may not be able to make it to the DMV to receive this sticker, so now I can bring this to them in the classroom or any other avenue that we may see fit to teach those classes. And I will be in charge of keeping these, and I will absolutely adhere to the requirements that I'm expected to adhere to. You know, there are criminal penalties involved in this chapter, and having said all of this, you know, on the front end we have the educational part, but we also need to look at the support through law enforcement on this as well. And I'm certainly not trying to do the jobs of our local law enforcement agents. That's their job to do. But, you know, the idea behind this, though, is awareness, not punishment. You know, a lot of people, including some of the teachers, or most of the teachers in the classes I've gone to, aren't really aware of what the laws say, and I would say a lot of people in this room now really aren't aware of that. So, you know, having the opportunity to promote the awareness would be certainly the thing we'd want to do. There are actually 3 pieces to this that I do think are worth mentioning here. One is an ATV cannot be operated or should not be operated in the state of West Virginia with more than 1 passenger unless more passengers are allowed in the manufacturer's recommendations. And we see that a lot. Now, for whatever reason, you know, I'm not here to speculate on why people do that, but that is the requirement. The other that I'd like to point out, it can also not be operated in the state with a passenger under the age of 18 unless the operator has at a minimum a level 2 intermediate driver's license or its equivalent, or is 18 years of age or older. Also another rule that I think, or another piece of the code I think people are unaware of. And the most important one that I always bring up with the kids in the classroom is that unless a rider under the age of 18 are wearing size-appropriate protective helmets that meet the current performance specifications established by ANSI. And what that means, there is no exception to that rule. There are some other exceptions to the other 2. But that particular rule, there is no exception that any child under the age of 18 in the state is required to have on an approved helmet, period. That's private property, farm property, commercial, it doesn't matter. There are no exceptions to that law. But anybody has the right to review this law at their leisure and ask questions, and I would encourage that. The more of us that read these kinds of things, I think the better discussions, the more informed kind of discussions that we can have. And always is a positive thing to make sure people are all on the same page. And I do tell our kids that in 5th grade. You know, it's not just an adult website. They have access to this too. I mean, they are under the age of 18, yes, but every person has the right to read the laws. Every person. And that includes them, even as 11-year-olds. And I highly encourage them to learn to start doing that, because it not only applies in this situation, but there are a lot of other situations that would apply in the same regard, that they can get online and go to their West Virginia Legislature website and read state code in regards to anything. And that includes their parents as well. And I would encourage people to call the office if they want to talk to me about this class or the options of these stickers. And I'm going to try to get this out to as many children as I possibly can. There are a lot of them and only one of me, so I'll attempt to do the best I can. And I would also like to thank the Commission and the Board of Education. You've been very cooperative with me in this program since I started in this position back in 2008. And we all agreed at that time, and we recognized that this is an important program that we need to address in the southern part of West Virginia especially. And I just really appreciate and enjoy the cooperation that I see here with the Commission and with our Board of Education. We have meetings quite often with agents from all over the state, and I can tell you that I walk away from those meetings with a very good feeling, knowing that I have a high level of cooperation with the Commission and the Board of Education that some other counties don't enjoy. So, thank you.
We appreciate your work. Good information.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak at this time?
Yeah, I just received a report from Adopt a Highway, and Lincoln County is #1 on glass recycling. We beat out all the other counties. So that's...
I say that has a lot to do with your efforts.
It's a lot of hard work.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Does the Commission intend to reveal the, I know it's on the agenda for later, but reveal the names of the all the applicants for both offices?
At some point we do, yes. I haven't got a chance to talk to the other commissioners.
Okay.
Yes.
I would just like to say to Sean, who wrote the wonderful article in the Lincoln Journal last week about the value of the voting system. It really brought tears to my eyes, Sean, because you made extremely wonderful points, you know, about our forefathers fighting for the right to vote, for all of us being able to vote legally And I would just like to say, I'm so ashamed of anyone in this county that has done anything to cause all the corruption we've had here for years. And someday, Lincoln County will have a brighter future, and all this is cleared up, and all the professional crooks are gone from this county. But thank you, Sean. It was a wonderful column you wrote, and I'm so glad that you see the value of the right principles of voting, what our forefathers wanted.
Thanks.
Is there anyone else? Moving on to commission concerns.
The next item we have there is the review of applications for the Lincoln County Clerk and Lincoln County Sheriff. Maybe if we just go ahead and see if there's any reporting from the commission on individual things, like we normally do, and then let this be the last item.
Mr. Bates?
I've attended a few of the sessions of the Board of Equalization Review on the phone, which we haven't had anybody reply when I attended live. And I also tried to attend the Workforce West Virginia meeting yesterday. It was cut off during our teleconference. I do have one thing I'd want to ask the commission is that in the future, if we have legal documents, subpoenas, things of those nature that come to the commission, that I be informed of those when they do occur. I appreciate the efforts of the news media and the paper and keeping people informed, and I think I would like to know when we receive those documents that we have received them. Also, I would like to be informed if the commission or any department that we supervise is a subject of any kind of civil rights violation or anything of that nature. I'd like to be involved with that as soon as we know about it. That's all I have.
Could over the last 2 weeks, I attended via telephone the Board of Equalization meetings on the 3rd, 6th, 8th, 10th, and 14th. And on the 12th, 13th, and 14th, I attended the West Virginia Association of Counties training in Charleston. And at that training, there was a couple things that really was the topic of discussion. One was this extractive industry and just energy in general. And I felt it was a very important meeting and session because with West Virginia being an energy leading state, that for us to be able to go there, talk about the Marcellus Shale and some of the other things that's going to impact this part of the state and the rest of the state in terms of taxes and what we could do with that money in terms of infrastructure. Also, I would ask everybody to keep an eye out for the autism bill that has been reintroduced to the legislature. It's a cleanup bill from last year, and what it would do is make sure that children that are autistic are not discriminated against in terms of health care. And I've been working again with Jason Moore, and Jason Moore has requested some documentation on finances from the commission, and I'm pretty sure that Judy was able to fulfill those wishes yesterday. And that would be all at this point.
Okay. Of course, I did conduct those meetings. We've heard talk about the Board of Equalization, the 3rd, 6th, 8th, 10th, and 14th. We still have one more to go next week on minimals. February the 7th, I conducted a telephone conference with the Region 2 Planning Development Executive Board concerning the matter of purchasing a building for office space for the Region 2 and Cuyahoga, the Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia Planning and Development. And we were able to pass a resolution to basically borrow a major part of the money to purchase the building with a payback plan. And in the morning at 11, formal documents are to be signed at Century Bank. February the 8th, as a member of the Tri-River Transit Board of Directors, attended that meeting. Normal business, but also we approved the budget for the coming year, fiscal year, and we're right at the $1 million mark for the budget for Tri-River. That same day, that evening, February the 8th, attended the SPEED reception, legislative reception. That stands for this. SPEED is the Southern Partners for Education and Economic Development. February the 12th, 13th. He did attend the Association of County meetings in addition to what Mr. Graham reported. Also, one of the pull-out sessions was on broadband and how fiber optics is going to be involved and how all the counties are going to be, courthouses are going to be connected, and with the goal of helping us provide more of our business online and being able to be a little more efficient with that. On February the 14th in the afternoon, I met with Mike Mosteller to talk about some of the projects that they have for our self-help, and sort of looked at those and give him some insight and be able to go back and report to his board with what might be able to happen as far as self-help projects in the Lincoln PSD. That's all I have. We do have applications that given to me as requested. I have those attached by the sheriff's, people who applied for the sheriff. I'd like to share those with the commission to look at and review whatever you desire. I have certainly read all of them and looked at them. Goal will be to, may not meet it, but our goal will be here today is to review these and determine how many or who we may want to interview for these two different positions. With the, again, the goal was a special call meeting already been called for in the morning at 8 o'clock to begin the process. And what do we get all that done? I don't know, but I felt like we needed to set something in motion, and so in order to meet the requirements of a special meeting, but we did notify that yesterday.
Charles.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, well, there's a question about resident. Yes, sir. The requirements to hold any public office, resident in the county and a registered voter.
Except for prosecuting attorney?
Well,
for these two
yeah,
offices?
yeah. Resident's not required for prosecutor. One suggestion is to be thinking about, I don't know how you want to do this, but I thought maybe if you decide to, if you want to have some anonymity to it, that maybe just each of us will write down the names that we think should be interviewed. I did cut some pieces of paper up and just put those in rather than, I don't know how you want to do it, but think about how you may want to do it. But I thought, well, that's one way. That way people, you still make your choice, but not necessarily know who recommends whom.
Now, is this going to be for who we interview?
Yes, who you want to interview.
You know, I was wondering if we could maybe each submit 3 names and you just look at them and see if you got 3 names that adds up to, you know, if you're on all of our list, you'd be 3 points. If you're on mine and Ramey and not you, then it'd be 2 points. Then you know, just take the highest of that total. points on that or something. I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure either. I just tried to think about it. Trying to, I guess, people who've applied, certainly, as I look at it, as Sean asked before, public information, these are public offices, and I told all the people that I got a chance to talk to prior to they submitted, some of them didn't, that this was public information, and unless the commission just seemed to do something different, I felt like that once the applications were reviewed by the commissioners, that this would become public information as showing the interest. We did have some people to contact me that had applied and then they withdrew for whatever reason. So those applications are not in this group. I pulled those out and filed them. I do still have them, but they're filed.
So how many applicants did you have for each position?
I'm not sure yet.
6 for sheriff.
6 for sheriff.
And do we know when the current resignation of Mr. Bowman will be?
According to all I know is the March 7th date that I read in the paper, so I don't know anything other than that.
And how many for county clerk?
We're fixing to get into that just now.
Thank you.
Commission ready?
Yeah.
As you know, on the sheriff position, the commission pretty much went on record that we wanted people who are not candidates running for the sheriff office, since that is an open office, and we did not receive any applications from anyone that was running for sheriff. So I think I appreciate that from all those candidates that did file. For the county clerk, I guess the way I understand, you know, it's probably not in our authority, or should it even be in our authority, to tell someone that applies for this position that they could be appointed until the November election, and then where they could or could not go ahead and file and try to get the committee to put them on the ballot. I don't think that would be best I can determine any authority we should have or want to have. So I first thought, well, it's an advantage maybe that you get appointed to the county clerk, and then, as I understand the process, that the executive committee of Democrat and Republican would pick a candidate to go on the November ballot at a certain point. And so my first thought was, well, if we appoint someone, maybe they shouldn't be entitled to serve, but that might give them a spring to it. But the more I thought about it, I mean, it's one of those things I hadn't dealt with, but the more I thought about it, that, well, everybody has a right to run for office. And everybody has the right to file to be appointed. So maybe that's none of our business. I talked with the prosecutor about what he thought, and he thought, well, maybe you discourage people and say, well, maybe you should just think about the short-term appointment is the most fairest thing. But I guess I still what the other positions would feel on that, but it seems to me like that has to be an individual decision making. That's 7 for the county clerk. Now, there was some, as I said before, had filed and withdrew. We have 7 to be considered. Is it the pleasure of the commission to release these names at this time? How are you going to deal with that? Do you have any thoughts? Okay. For county clerk, I'll give those 7 names first. John E. White, Merle Gue, Cyrus M. Triplett, Christy Scraggs, Donnie Whitten, Kenny Pennington, the son, Donnie Whitten, Ernest Kuhn, K-U-H-U, is that 7? I ran out of space.
8.
Is that 8?
I only got 7.
Well, maybe I messed up. Kuhn.
Sorry, 7.
Okay.
Apologies. Happy hours.
That was an Irish smack.
Yeah.
Following consideration for sheriff, Jameson Linville, Merle Gue, Jerry Alford, Mose Maynard, Gregory Lawson, and Mike Hatfield. I guess being a teacher, I try to plan ahead of time, but I did cut some papers up. And if you want to do the nomination, just write yours down and do that as Commissioner Banks maybe suggests there. 3 out of the clerk, 3 out of the sheriff, each of us. I don't know if I got enough papers.
Are these nominations for interview?
Yes, just for interview. I guess.
Yeah, I'd be quite entertained.
If you want to, 3 sheriff candidates, one of each.
That's fine. I'll do the sheriff, all 3 of them.
We're ready just to read those out, who we're going to schedule.
What if there's more, how many,
Well, that's what I thought we tried to do, but I think it would be, if we could still limit it down, so you want to do what you said, sit with you, it's too low.
Right. You might be looking at it and see if your three comes out on top on that, then that makes it a lot easier.
Okay, we're going to do an in-house tally here. For Sheriff Hugh, for Sheriff Linville, for Sheriff Hatfield, for Sheriff Linville, for Sheriff Hatfield, oh, I'm sorry. I'm wasting paper.
Are we starting all over?
Yeah, let's start. Gu would be 2. You would keep a tally of this because I'm not good at this. Linville would be 2. Hatfield be 2. Alford, Jerry Alford, 2. Mose Maynard, 1. That come out to 9.
So we'll just interview the 4.
Yeah, all right. So decision made to interview the top 4. Now for similar process for the county clerk. Kenny Pennington, 1. Johnny White, 1. Merle Gu, 1. Christy Scraggs, 1. Mark Triplett, 1. Gu, again, that's 2, isn't it? Scraggs, again. Merle Gu, again. Ernie Coon. Does that tally out?
Yeah. It would be Merle Gu and Christy Scraggs. Right?
I didn't keep track.
Yeah. Merle Gu for the race.
All right, Merle Gu, Christy Scraggs will be the people interviewed for the county clerk. Our request at this time would be to request Judy, our administrator, to contact these people and set up interviews beginning at 8 o'clock in the morning at 15-minute intervals. Any questions?
Will the interviews be open?
I think that's what we did the last time when we interviewed a few years back. Unless somebody can show me it's some kind of violating the Privacy Act or something on the individual, but I don't think anybody. It's a public office, so I have no problem with that.
I do have one question. Do you want the sheriff's office candidates at one, first, or you want to just mix it up, or?
It might be good to have them take the sheriff first and then the county clerk, or vice versa, but I think it would be good to stay focused. Now, for the benefit of the commissioners, certainly be a thing about what you may ask. I did take time yesterday and devise about 6 questions that I thought might be pertinent to each of them. Most of them are exact, but a couple of them are different according to the job responsibilities. So I'll have those ready for you to look at in the morning, and or before you leave your day for that you
I've got them all typed up already.
So that, just have some structure to how we interview, and you need to be thinking about, once we interview, how are we going to make the selection? Similar to this would be my suggestions for thought.
Where will the interviews be?
It'll be in our office. We would like to have this, but the judge has this already scheduled for tomorrow, so the interviews will be conducted. We'll have tables set up and things in our office to do the interviewing. Limited space, but the best we can do, I guess.
Come early.
Now, I know some of these have probably already had background checks, but do you feel that, how are we going to address that?
Well, one of the questions I put on the interview sheet was, tell us if you have any history with any criminal record, anything that you think we should know, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, because that basically, if we weren't told the truth in our decision,
yeah. So, yeah, I put that as one of the questions. One of the questions is, are you a registered voter? Do you live in Lincoln County? What do you bring to the table to make you the best candidate? Those kinds of things. Yes.
Should Mr. Pennington not be considered for the county clerk's job, since in 2010 he was the second runner-up to Mr. Whitney with the election day results, and even after the absentees and earlies were presented, he was the second place person. And I would think you all should need to consider that.
That was kind of my thinking, and my vote for Mr. Pennington was that.
Well, it would only be fair to consider him since what all's went down lately. So.
That's why we had a process to go through, and that's what we conducted, and not going to change it from that.
Well, you're interviewing 4 for sheriff and 2 for county clerk. I just would think, in light of the election fiasco, that Mr. Pennington would be considered.
Well, that's good. Appreciate it. Anything else before the commission? Yes.
In light of the pending investigation and the results that impaired the election process, is there any statutes or is there anything that's going to make us go back as a county, or whoever's job it would be, to have special elections or that would alter the election results or anything of that nature?
I don't know of any, but that would be a question of the prosecutor or Secretary of State. Do you have something,
No, I was just, well, it was just kind of like in light of what this lady behind me, I don't know who she was asking about, because of the,
right. Now, why don't you give your name for the record? You know Lisa, but
Derek Bragg.
Is there another hand? Yes.
Last commission meeting, y'all said you'd like to have someone with experience for the sheriff's position. Is time of employment going to be a concern when you interview people?
What do you mean for sure? I'm not sure.
How much experience they have?
Well, that'll be a factor that I'm sure will be discussed. That's up to each individual commissioner to weigh how they feel about it. That was, when you got a tribunal like this, that's the only way I know. Each person has an equal voice. But this is just to finish out the term through December. Then whoever is elected in the fall, Democrat or Republican, will take office January.
I don't know, we'll go through the ranks, like the chief deputy, should they just go on down?
I understand what you're saying, but that wouldn't affect us, I don't think. The sheriff's office is a pretty complicated office. Law enforcement's only one thing. And the sheriff serves as the treasurer for the county, which means all the money that's collected from taxes, school board money, which is a major part of it, millions of dollars, but also we have, you know, the responsibility of keeping the records and issuing checks and all that. That all is started in the sheriff's office with the collecting the revenue and going from there. So it's really, I've always sort of thought, well, that really needs to be two different offices, really. You got law enforcement, then a completely new thing. If you're responsible, all the money's collected tax dollars. And that's just, but that's the way the law is. That's the way the Constitution is. Anything else? Somewhere I got a paper that says, read that. Read that.
The next meeting is, of course, in the morning, special session at 8 a.m. Then we meet as a Board of Equalization review on February the 21st for Mineral Day, and then our next regular session is March the 1st, 2012 at 6 p.m.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have